Hi, I'm Joe Graydon.
I'm Terry Graydon. Welcome to this podcast of the People's Pharmacy, where we bring you the stories behind the health headlines.
This podcast is brought to you by Redix Industries, makers of Utterly Smooth Body Cream. 800-345-7339, on the web at uttercream.com. Are you planning a vacation this summer? What should you take along in your traveling first aid kit? This is the People's Pharmacy with Terry and Joe Graydon.
Even if you're not planning a long trip, day hikes and bike rides can trigger minor emergencies. What should you carry to deal with leg cramps, blisters, or minor burns?
If you fall off your bike or scrape your knee while hiking, what can you do to stop the bleeding? Handy remedies from the drugstore or kitchen can fit easily in your backpack.
Hotel rooms and hostels may harbor unwanted guests. How do you keep from bringing bed bugs home? Is there anything you can do to get rid of them?
Coming up on the People's Pharmacy, your questions and stories about staying healthy while traveling.
First, this news.
In the People's Pharmacy health headlines, ground turkey is frequently contaminated with bacteria that could make us sick. That's the conclusion from a Consumer Reports investigation of ground turkey purchased in grocery stores nationwide. Of 257 packages analyzed, 90% tested positive for bacteria. Over half the samples contained fecal bacteria such as E. coli. Other disease-causing germs, such as Salmonella and Staph aureus, also showed up in many samples. Many of the bacteria were resistant to antibiotics usually used to treat such infections. Organic turkeys raised without antibiotics were actually less likely to be contaminated with resistant bacteria. The Consumer Reports investigation points up the vulnerability of our food supply. FDA Commissioner Hamburg has suggested that sequestration may make it even worse. Fewer funds will seriously limit the FDA's already strained resources for food inspections.
Emergency contraception, often referred to as the morning after pill, will now be sold over the counter. Plan B one-step will become available for young women who are at least 15 years old. Currently, the ingredient in Plan B, levonorgestrel, is sold behind the counter only to buyers who are at least 17. Under the new agreement, Plan B one-step will become available on pharmacy shelves, but will require proof of age to purchase. The new decision from the FDA came after the agency determined that 15-year-olds are capable of understanding how the product works and how to use it correctly.
Medication mistakes are common and serious in hospital settings, but a new study shows that they also happen at home. Nurses who observed parents giving their children cancer chemotherapy found that between 10 and 40% of the doses were missed. The kids averaged about 7 years old, and 242 chemotherapy doses were observed. There were 72 errors noted, including 4 that injured the children with severe digestive distress, pain, and agitation. Another 40 had the potential to cause injury. In one case, parents sprinkled the medication on the child's food, which made it ineffective. The researchers concluded that cancer doctors need to communicate more clearly about exactly how these critical medicines should be administered at home in order to reduce such serious mistakes.
Ginkgo biloba is a popular herbal medicine that's reputed to improve cognitive functioning. Even though randomized controlled trials do not show that it prevents dementia or Alzheimer's disease, millions of older people take it in the hopes of warding off mental decline. A new study from the National Toxicology Program suggests there may be hidden hazards associated with ginkgo. The investigators assessed the safety of this herbal extract in several species of laboratory animals. They found a significant link to liver cancer in mice and thyroid cancer in rats. The animals also experienced nasal tumors. The liver tumors were especially worrisome because they included some aggressive cancers rarely seen in mice. The herbal industry has complained that the doses which were used were excessive and don't reflect real-world use of ginkgo. Because the FDA rarely reviews safety data for dietary supplements before they're marketed, consumers should consider this new evidence before embracing ginkgo biloba supplements for long-term use.
Perhaps people who want to stay sharp should consider following a Mediterranean-style diet. Scientists at the University of Alabama have analyzed data from approximately 17,000 seniors who've been followed for approximately 4 years. The volunteers took tests of cognitive function and memory at least twice during that time. Healthy people who stuck more closely to a diet rich in vegetables and healthy fats such as olive oil and low in sweets and meat were 19% less likely to drop in their cognitive test scores. People with type 2 diabetes did not experience such protective effects, however. Some health experts find the Mediterranean-type diet worrisome because it's high in fat, high in salt, and includes moderate alcohol consumption. Nevertheless, numerous studies seem to suggest that not only can a Mediterranean diet be good for the brain, it's also linked to a lower risk of cardiovascular complications and mortality. And that's the health news from the People's Pharmacy this week.
Welcome to the People's Pharmacy. I'm Terry Graydon. I'm a medical anthropologist.
And I'm Joe Graydon. I'm a pharmacologist. The weather's getting warmer, school's winding up, and lots of us are thinking about outdoor activities, hiking, biking, canoeing, climbing, and for the adventurous, caving. Maybe you've already started planning your summer vacation at the beach, the mountains, or perhaps in another country. What should you be doing to prepare for your adventures, and how should you stock your first aid kit?
What do you take with you when you go biking or backpacking? We'd like to know what's in your traveling first aid kit. Sometimes it seems that a first aid kit has everything in it except what you need right then. Has that ever happened to you? You can tell us about it at 888-472-3366 or send us an email. It's joe@peoplespharmacy.com or Terry, Terry, @peoplespharmacy.com. If you have a question about staying healthy on vacation, give us a call, 888-472-3366.
And later in the show, we're going to be talking about bed bugs. This is the kind of time of year when people start, traveling, and bed bugs are ubiquitous all over the world, and we're going to give you some insights on how to avoid bringing them home with you.
Well, Joe, digestive problems are pretty common when people travel.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the problems that's very common is constipation. And one of the things that I like to tuck into my traveling first aid kit, or just take along with me, are either fiber packets or sugarless chewing gum. And the sugarless chewing gum is also helpful if you're on a plane. It helps with that ascent and descent.
Exactly right. First aid kits, they're so big and bulky, and they've got so much stuff in there, and you almost would never, carry it along with you on a hike or while you're biking. But we've got some hints for you that you can just put in your pocket, like sugarless gum, put in your pocketbook, put in your backpack, or just, have handy. So what do you do when you cut yourself, when you get a nosebleed, for example? Have you ever tried black pepper? We'd like to hear your stories. What about leg cramps? Again, that number, if you'd like to join our conversation and share your favorite remedies for an emergency, 888-472-3366.
Well, we've got an email about diarrhea. Yesterday, one of my elderly gardening clients came to the door very ill. He had gone to the ER for severe diarrhea and vomiting. The prescription meds had not stopped the diarrhea. I went to the store and got him some coconut macaroons. He called me 4 hours later and said they worked great. They stopped the diarrhea. So that is one home remedy. Yeah, it might not be accessible everywhere, but it's going to be accessible in a lot of places.
Here's another one. This is from an ER nurse. My husband and I read about using black pepper to control non-arterial bleeding. He took a bad spill one night and had profuse facial bleeding from several cuts. He insisted that I not take him to the ER, but instead apply the black pepper, which staunched the bleeding. I cleaned around the cuts as well as possible, observed him for head injury precautions during the night hours. The bleeding had stopped, and in the morning, he was elated. So what do you do when you cut yourself in the kitchen? Have you ever tried black pepper? What's your favorite home remedy for an emergency? Again, if you'd like to join our conversation, you can email us or call 888-472-3366.
Well, I want to go back to the topic of traveler's diarrhea and just say that if you're traveling someplace where this is a potential problem and you wouldn't drink the water, you want to make sure that you don't take your drinks with ice in them. Freezing does not kill the bugs that can make you sick.
Well, that's why I like to take Pepto-Bismol. The liquid works really well, but you can also take the tablets, which are much more convenient, and they have bismuth subsalicylate, and that has been shown to be somewhat helpful against traveler's diarrhea. What else should you take along on a trip, Terry?
Well, you definitely want to make sure that if there are any regular medications that you take, that you take them along and you take enough to get you through your trip. So pack your regular prescription medicines.
And don't put them in your suitcase. There is nothing worse than having, important medicine like an anticoagulant like Pradaxa or warfarin, or even your blood pressure medicine for that matter. And then what happens? They lose your luggage.
Right, and then you are stuck.
And trying to get a pharmacy in France, for example, to fill your prescription for some blood pressure pill that they're not familiar with, that can be a challenge.
Even if you're in Kansas City, it's going to take time out of your vacation to, get in touch with your doctor to try and get the prescription to the pharmacy. You don't need that when you're on vacation.
So keep it in your carry-on luggage. That is absolutely essential. What else?
Well, if you have allergies, you should definitely be taking your EpiPen with you. That's in case of emergency. If you're allergic to bee stings, for example, you want to have that EpiPen with you, even when you're away from home.
I'm not that big a fan of diphenhydramine, the ingredient in Benadryl, but if I was going on a trip, I think I might take it along for 3 reasons. One, it really works pretty well for motion sickness. It's a good antihistamine if you get into allergy land. And then finally, if you're having trouble sleeping, which is not uncommon, especially with jet lag, it's a pretty good way to help you get to sleep. It will make you drowsy.
It will indeed. In fact, that's one of the drawbacks if you're trying to use it during the day.
Let's go to Hilton Head, South Carolina. Kathy, welcome to the People's Pharmacy. What's on your mind? What's this about quinine?
Hi. I have leg cramps at night when I sleep.
Uh-huh.
And my doctor recently suggested to take some quinine, which in tonic water, though he didn't say how much to drink. And I tried it, and it seems to really work, but I'm concerned about whether it's bad for your heart. I had heard it might be bad for your heart, and I'd take my answer offline.
Well, don't go away just yet, Kathy, because we have a couple of questions to follow up with. First of all, Terry, physicians can't prescribe quinine for leg cramps, or they certainly shouldn't, because the FDA has said,
That's right. FDA says quinine is too dangerous a drug to use it for something that's merely uncomfortable or painful, like leg cramps. And so they reserve quinine. There is one prescription quinine drug on the market, but they reserve it for malaria. And there's not a lot of malaria, thank goodness, in the U.S., although if you're traveling someplace weird, you should take your anti-malarial along.
Now, Kathy, you can get quinine, as your doctor suggested, from tonic water. The FDA has not banned tonic water, thank goodness. I think there would be an outcry by all those gin and tonic lovers.
But you do need to make sure when you buy your tonic water that it has actual quinine in it, and it'll say that now on the labeling.
So a couple of glasses of tonic, yes, some people do report that it's beneficial, but we've got a couple of other possibilities, and you've got to have a pretty strong stomach to try this one. It's yellow mustard. Just have a little yellow mustard on the nightstand if you get your nighttime leg cramps. About a teaspoon or two, Terry, is that?
Well, yes, about a teaspoon if you're dishing it out of the mustard container. But if you've got a packet from the fast food store, just one packet usually will do it. Maybe if it doesn't work immediately, take two. And, this is actually very fast acting. Usually it sends the leg cramp away in less than 2 minutes.
A little pickle juice, again, not something you'd probably want to swallow at 2 o'clock in the morning, may be beneficial. And, of course, if you want to prevent leg cramps, some people tell us a little bar of soap under the bottom sheet down where your calf is might do the trick. So have you tried any of those other remedies, Kathy, and have you had any luck with them?
I did try. I heard on your show about the soap, and I did try that, though I didn't have any luck with it. But I'll tell you, to drink that tonic water, it's hard to do when you're not used to drinking it, and it really worked. But as I said, I do have some heart problems, and it kind of concerned me a little bit.
Right.
We're not aware that the amount of quinine in a glass of tonic water would be a problem for the heart. But you should ask the doctor who recommended it whether it'll interfere with any of your other medications.
Hey, Kathy, good luck, and let us know how you make out. We appreciate the call. All right. Let's go right to where do you want to go next, Terry?
To Bill in Madison, Wisconsin.
Okay. Hi, Bill. What's going on?
Yeah, this is Will. When I was young, we were deep in the woods up in northern Minnesota with Dad and I. I cut myself with a knife very severely above the knee, and it was, I'd say about an inch deep and about 4 inches long. And it was bleeding. It was bad. Dad told me right away this came an old remedy from Sweden, Finland, pee. Pass your body urine on it. I did, and it stopped bleeding within 5 minutes. Then he put, clot on and everything like that. And it left a scar, of course, but that's the way you stop the bleeding, with your body urine on your cut if you cut yourself bad. If you have no Band-Aids or nothing else with you. Then another little recommendation. In the evening, with your supper, take a little bit of magnesium. Not a lot, because it can create diarrhea, but just a little bit to test it out for yourself. That will stop the leg cramps. I used to have leg cramps. I started taking, of course, my A to Z vitamins and stuff like that. But a little bit of magnesium will help prevent leg cramps.
Will, we agree. Thanks for that suggestion. The urine on a cut is not one we've heard before. We've heard of urine used for all sorts of other healing reasons.
Exactly, for smelly feet, for athlete's foot, all kinds of things, but never for a cut. Black pepper, on the other hand, has been known to work. We've tried it. It does the job for us. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to learn about bed bugs. You can also join the conversation, 888-472-3366.
You're listening to The People's Pharmacy with Joe and Terry Graydon.
Welcome back to The People's Pharmacy. I'm Joe Graydon.
And I'm Terry Graydon. The People's Pharmacy is made possible by Red X Industries, makers of Utter Cream and Utterly Smooth Extra Care Cream, enriched with urea to moisturize dry, cracked skin. 800-345-7339. The website is uttercream.com.
And by We Patients, where you can learn from others about possible triggers and potential treatments for your headaches or migraines online at wepatients.com.
If you'd like to order a CD of this show, you can call 800-732-2334. It's show number 902. Or you can visit our website. It's peoplespharmacy.com.
Today we're talking about staying healthy when you travel. You can share your story or ask a question about your, travel first aid kit at 888-472-3366. Email us Joe or Terry at peoplespharmacy.com or send us a message through Twitter at People's Pharmacy.
Bed bugs could be a problem almost anywhere you go. Hostels or hotels may be high risk because there are lots of people coming and going. So how do you protect yourself from this travel hazard? To find out, we turn to Dr. Kobe Shaw, the Blanton J. Whitmire Distinguished Professor in the Department of Entomology at the North Carolina State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. Welcome back to the People's Pharmacy, Dr. Shaw.
Thank you very much. Great to be with you again.
It's always nice to have you, although I have to admit, Dr. Shaw, you do have one of those topics where everybody goes, ooh, bed bugs? Oh, I don't know if I want to hear about this. But, Dr. Shaw, tell us, what is the latest research in the bed bug front? A couple of years ago, headlines about bed bugs were very common, and it seems like all of a sudden they've disappeared. The media doesn't seem interested anymore.
Well, that happens with a lot of household pests during the winter. The media seems to lose interest, but then as summer rolls around and people start traveling again and people encounter bed bugs in hotels and other vacation places and bring bed bugs home, the media picks up on it again. So we're entering that phase where bed bugs are becoming more popular, both in the media and in people's homes.
Well, that is exactly what we wanted to talk to you about. As people start thinking about their summer travels, we wondered if you had tips on how to avoid bringing bed bugs home.
Well, certainly. Bed bugs travel quite commonly with people and people's belongings. So it's very important, certainly when checking into a hotel, to check the bed and the bed surroundings to make sure that there's no bed bugs there. And the bed bugs can be detected visually. If the bedbug infestation is reasonably large, they can be detected. A single bedbug is very difficult to detect in a room. But I highly recommend that when a traveler enters a room in a hotel, that they not put their suitcase on the bed, because if there are bedbugs on the bed, they can enter the suitcase. So put the suitcase on the luggage rack that's provided in the hotel room. Move the luggage rack away from the wall, because bedbugs can crawl along the wall and into the suitcase. By the way, bedbugs are not interested in being in the suitcase, but the suitcase has odors that signal to a bedbug that there may be a person involved with the suitcase. Their vision is not that good. They smell people, and so they crawl into the suitcase, which has people's belongings. If you have used socks, for example, bedbugs are quite attracted to the odors associated with human sweat. So moving the luggage rack away from the wall prevents bedbugs from having direct entry into the suitcase. After doing that, I like to take a small flashlight. I travel with a small flashlight and go to the headboard and the head of the bed and look for signs of bedbugs. And those signs would be tiny little fecal pellets that bedbugs produce. Bedbugs ingest a huge amount of blood, and most of that blood is defecated. Most of the water has to be defecated. So there's tiny little pepper-like specks of digested blood. Look for that on the sheets, the seams of the mattress, the seams of the box spring. If you can lift the headboard, which is very difficult to do in many hotels, I highly recommend removing the headboard and looking behind the headboard. So those are just some of the things that one can do to inspect for bed bugs.
And in the event that you did find those little pepper flakes on the sheet or along the seam, or even actual bed bugs behind the headboard, what do you do?
Well, there's no way you can treat for them yourself, or there's no way you can escape them, because they will find you at night when you sleep there. So I would get out of that room, go to the registration desk and request a room as far away as possible from that particular room. Bed bugs, they do travel actively between rooms. Of course, they don't have wings, so they can walk between rooms. So certainly don't accept a room adjacent to an infested room. The room that you accept should be as far as possible from that room. And generally, a good hotel would then seal that room off and seal the rooms adjacent to that room and immediately do a bedbug treatment on all those rooms.
Is there any way to check in advance online, for example, for hotels that might have bedbug infestations?
There are all sorts of bedbug registries online. Those can be quite misleading because a single occurrence of a bedbug infestation would eliminate a hotel if you were going by those registries. In fact, many hotels do get bedbugs and treat the bedbug infestation quite effectively, so those hotels are perfectly fine to check into. So those registries are not terribly useful. They are sort of a cumulative snapshot of all the infestations that have taken place over the last 10, 15 years, but they don't tell you anything about the current situation in that hotel.
So, Dr. Shah, what happens if you wake up in the morning and you discover that you have all kinds of bites and you say, oh my goodness, I've been attacked by bed bugs? And even if, you can't verify that, you have a strong enough suspicion that it's rather worrisome. What should you do with your luggage when you get home before you start unpacking?
So that's a great question, and you should immediately be concerned with carrying bed bugs to the home. You should unpack away from the house if you can, and pack your clothing into bags. Those bags, if it's a pillowcase, for example, that pillowcase can be put into a dryer, a clothes dryer, and treated at low to medium heat, or certainly can go to high heat if you don't have any delicate clothing, and keep the temperature at about 120 degrees Fahrenheit or so for a good half an hour to an hour, and that should take care of the bed bugs and the bed bug eggs that might be associated with it. If you know that you've been in a bed bug infested room, the suitcase itself really needs to be treated. So I would bag the suitcase. If it's a suitcase that can fit into a freezer, that's a very good treatment. Put it in the freezer for several days. Cold is not nearly as effective at killing bed bugs as heat is. So if you put the suitcase in a freezer for several days, that should kill the bed bugs as well. But one comment about the scenario that you just painted, Joe. Generally, when you get bed bug bites, most people will not have a reaction right away. So this can be sort of problematic because you may stay in a hotel, be exposed to bed bugs, get the bed bug bites, but your physiological reaction, your skin reaction, may not occur for several days or even a couple of weeks afterwards. So sometimes for business travelers, it may be difficult to associate which hotel they got bed bug bites in because of that delayed response. For people that have been exposed to bed bugs repeatedly and have been, their body has been sensitized, the immune system has been sensitized to bed bug bites, those people will react right away within minutes to hours.
Is there a typical appearance of a bed bug bite? Is it easy to recognize?
You can't really recognize a bed bug bite, distinguish it from a, say, mosquito bite or a flea bite. They can look the same, and they look different on different people. Different people have different physiological reactions. Some people on the first bite will have a sort of pussy type secretion coming out of the skin, and others don't. So it's a very individual response. But bed bug bites can occur anywhere on the body. Flea bites, generally, as you walk in the house, flea bites tend to be on the feet. Bed bug bites can be pretty much anywhere on the body because the bed bug can attack you from either the headboard or the footboard or anywhere from the mattress or the bug spring.
Dr. Shah, what happens if you do bring them home? How would you know you had them, where they are, and how would you get rid of them?
Well, knowing that you have them, generally people don't see them. Generally people get bites and realize that something's going on, and if they know that they have not been outside and exposed to fleas or exposed to mosquitoes or ticks, bed bugs obviously come to mind. To confirm that you have bed bugs, there's a number of approaches. One is a passive approach, where there are these bedbug traps that they're called interceptors that one can put at the foot of the bed or even against the wall, and they intercept bedbugs as they travel looking for hosts, looking for us. So leaving those traps out for several days, if you see a bedbug in one of those interceptor traps, that suggests that you have many bedbugs, many more bedbugs than the one that you have trapped or the several that you have trapped. So that's a passive approach. There are some active traps that one can use. There are some do-it-yourself carbon dioxide type traps where one uses dry ice to emit carbon dioxide, which bedbugs are attracted to. So that can be, those types of traps can be used as well. Probably the most effective way to detect bedbugs. Well, the third I should mention is visually, of course, to do an inspection within your own home. And if there's a good number of bedbugs, you'll spot not necessarily the bedbugs themselves, but you'll spot evidence of bedbugs. Again, that peppered fecal pellets that bedbugs leave behind. The most effective way to detect very low infestations of bedbugs, or sort of incipient infestations, is to use dogs that are specifically trained to detect bedbugs. It may be a bit more an expensive proposition, but there are some pest control operators and specialized businesses that run these trained dogs, where they'll run them through an apartment or a house or a hotel room for that matter. And some of these dogs are incredibly well trained at alerting for the presence of bedbugs. Some of them have been reported to detect as little as a single bedbug egg. So that's an incredible sensitivity to bedbugs.
And if you find them, how do you treat them?
Well, this is where the science of bedbug biology and control is really, really complex. Generally, bedbugs or insects in general can be treated with effective insecticides. Bedbugs, however, have developed very high levels of resistance to many of the insecticides in our arsenal. So, although insecticides can be used to treat bedbug infestations, they generally require multiple applications of insecticides over a long duration of time. And some people object to that type of approach. So the physical ways to control bedbugs, the most effective way to control bedbugs is to do a heat treatment. Just as I mentioned before, where you take clothing and put it in a clothes dryer, one can seal a room or seal an apartment or a whole house and expose the contents of the apartment or the house to high heat. Again, we're dealing with 120 degrees Fahrenheit. In this case, you want to maintain that temperature for at least 4 hours to kill all the bed bugs. It basically kills all insects in that apartment or house. This is something that one cannot do. It's not a do-it-yourself project. You cannot raise the thermostat in a house to raise the temperature to that prescribed temperature. In fact, you'd probably destroy the house. There have been some fires that have started from people trying to do this on their own. Really, a professional service is required for this type of approach. Professional pest control operators would come in with very high wattage heaters that put out a lot of BTUs into the house, and they can do this very effectively. They monitor the temperature in different locations within the house. It's absolutely critical that every spot within the house reach that threshold of 120 degrees Fahrenheit.
And I assume a professional operator who's able to do this will be able to tell you which of your belongings might need to be removed before they start. Absolutely.
This is very critical. Obviously, your expensive chocolates from Switzerland need to be moved out of the house. They will obviously melt. Candles, any expensive paintings. It actually takes a lot of preparation to do this type of treatment. In some cases, some of the old wallpaper glue may be susceptible to this type of temperature. So it is absolutely important that people consult with a professional pest control operator for this type of treatment.
Dr. Schall, you are arguably one of the world's foremost authorities on bed bugs. An interesting distinction, I might add. What's the future of bed bug research? Where is all of this headed?
Well, I think we're sort of on a cusp of making some important discoveries now. I think using genomic tools, there are a number of researchers now that are taking a genomic approach to identify target sites in bed bugs that can be targeted with new insecticides, new modes of action. We're in the process now of sequencing the whole bed bug genome. Actually, the bed bug genome has been sequenced now, and we are assembling the genome, and that will give us a whole lot of new approaches, hopefully, for targeting different biological processes within the bed bug. There's some interesting work being done on physical ways to control bed bugs. There's a beautiful paper that was published recently on using biologically inspired fish hooks from bean plants that impale bed bugs. And this is something that's been used historically before the advent of insecticides, and it's possible to bring these biologically inspired approaches back. But now, instead of relying on bean plants to impale bed bugs, we can synthetically make fibers or fabrics that might prevent bed bugs from crawling onto the bed, for example.
So I guess this is still for the future.
This is definitely for the future. This is something that we'll not be seeing in the next year or two, or maybe even 5 years. But I think that the future looks bright. Bed bugs have resurged unexpectedly in the last 10, 15 years, and it'll take some time before we develop the approaches that to target them specifically. We saw the same type of pattern with cockroaches. If you remember, back in the 60s and 70s, cockroaches were very, very difficult to control, but collaborations of academics and industry people have developed gel baits. They're extremely effective at controlling cockroaches, and we know how to eliminate cockroaches from apartments and buildings, and hopefully we'll be able to do that with bed bugs very soon.
Dr. Kobi Schall, thank you so much for talking with us on the People's Pharmacy today.
It's been great to talk to you again. Thank you.
You've been listening to Dr. Kobi Schall, the Blanton J. Whitmire Distinguished Professor in the Department of Entomology at North Carolina State University in Raleigh, North Carolina. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to take your calls about how to stay healthy when you're away from home. We'd also like to hear if you've had an encounter with bed bugs. And if you have some special tips for a traveling first aid kit, give us a call, 888-472-3366, or email us, Joe or Terry, at peoplespharmacy.com.
You're listening to the People's Pharmacy with Joe and Terry Graedon.
Welcome back to the People's Pharmacy. I'm Joe Graedon.
And I'm Terry Graedon. The People's Pharmacy is brought to you in part by Red X Industries, makers of utterly smooth foot cream with shea butter, helping dry, cracked feet feel soft and smooth. 800-345-7339. The website is uttercream.com.
And by We Patients, where you can learn from others about possible triggers and potential treatments for your headaches or migraines. Online at wepatients.com.
If you would like to purchase a CD of this show, you can call 800-732-2334. It's show number 902. That number again, 800-732-2334. You can also find it on our website, peoplespharmacy.com.
We're talking about staying healthy while you're having fun hiking, biking, or swimming. What do you do in case of an emergency? What do you do for bee stings or blisters, bruises, burns, or scrapes? If you'd like to join the conversation, the number's 888-472-3366. Or if the lines are busy, email us, Joe or Terry, at peoplespharmacy.com, or check in with us via Twitter at People's Pharmacy.
And we go to Judy in Charlottesville, Virginia. Judy, thanks for your patience. What's your story?
Hi, Joe and Terry. Just this week, I burned my hand. I had been boiling egg noodles and dropped the pot into the sink, and it splashed onto my hands,
Ooh.
boiling water. And, I tell you, it was very painful, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
I first put it under cold water, and then I sat here with a bag of frozen corn on it, and then thought to look up something on your website to treat this burn, and found the mustard. So, yellow mustard.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go to the store to get it, and which I did, and put it on, and you could hardly tell I have a burn on my hand. This is 3 days later.
So did it take the pain away?
Almost immediately. Almost immediately.
That is such a great story, Judy, and it's a good reason to keep yellow mustard in your refrigerator even if you don't like hot dogs very much.
Right. I prefer the brown.
Yes, so do we. But you know what? When it comes to a burn, good old-fashioned, cheap French's yellow mustard, it seems to do the trick.
It certainly did.
Judy, thank you so much for your patience and for sharing your story.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Speaking of yellow mustard, here's another one, Terry, that came in by email. He says, I found out about mustard for burns when I was in college working at a pizza joint many moons ago. I picked up a pizza pan right out of the oven and promptly dropped the entire pan. My hand immediately turned really red, and the owner, Tom, who was Greek and spoke very little English, grabbed my hand and squirted yellow mustard all over my palm and told me not to take it off. I worked my shift one-handed. When the mustard had dried, I washed it off. No pain, no blisters.
You gotta love that yellow mustard. We have an email, Joe, from Brenda. She says, as an avid backpacker or an avid hiker, I always have Arnica Gel and Arnica Montana 3X potency in my backpack. So that Arnica Montana 3X would be a homeopathic preparation she gets at the drugstore. The gel is great for muscle pain, swelling, stiffness, and bruising, and can have amazing results. The tablets, especially when started immediately, work to promote healing from sprains and bruises.
This is an email from Chris in Roanoke, Virginia. Chris says, I bought a compact commercial first aid kit, supposedly for use in hiking, and took it with me on a biking trip. When I cut my leg, I discovered there was nothing in the kit that could be used to make a butterfly bandage. Moral of the story: investigate the contents of any first aid kit that you buy before you need something that's not in it.
Oh, that is such good advice. And, we almost never do that sort of smart think-ahead thing, but it really is great advice.
And that's why you should always have a little packet of finely ground black pepper. You could put it in a little plastic baggie.
But you do need that bandage as well.
And you need the bandage as well. Where to, my dear?
Well, let's go to Conover, Wisconsin. Kathy, welcome to the People's Pharmacy.
Hello. Yes, I was talking about leg cramps and, toe cramps, how bad they can get. And I was in a first aid class probably about 10 years ago, and one of the participants had a leg cramp. It was pretty bad, but our instructor, who was an EMT, said, I've learned of a pressure point underneath your nose, right above your lip. You press pretty hard. Within seconds, it dissipated, and it's worked for us in the last decade. So it's just so simple, but you just have to train yourself to remember that.
We have heard this before, and I've never quite understood how to do it. Can you explain it a little bit better?
Well, underneath your nose, underneath the bone, and up above your lip, there's, where it meets. That's where you place your fingertip.
Okay.
And press as hard as you can.
All right.
And I don't know if it's a transfer of pain. You're going to have the discomfort under your nose, and you're concentrating on that, or the leg. But I don't know how it affects it. But it just calms it down. And my husband's the type that he'll get him so bad he jumps out of bed.
Uh-huh.
And I said, you got to remember this, and try to. And he'll do it, and it just immediately. So. Something to do with a pressure point.
And that's terrific because you've got that everywhere, no matter what your first aid kit is up to.
Right.
Kathy, thank you so much for sharing that. Like you say, it's always with you. Wherever your nose goes, so goes this home remedy. Let's go. Carl, are you in College Station, Texas?
Right, I am.
And what's the question about, is it ibuprofen?
Yes, we just got back from Europe, and I walked. I'm 80 years old, and I walked a lot. And my knees aren't the best in the world, but they were hurting. And somebody said, "Why don't you try ibuprofen?" my kids were with us too, and so I did, and by golly, it went. The knees really improved, and it weren't hurting. But I don't want to take ibuprofen all the time for bad knees. Can you overdo it, or is there side effects?
Oh, such a great question, Carl. The answer is yes. Of course, ibuprofen is great for pain, but yes, it can be overdone. And in fact, people end up in the hospital every year because they've taken too much ibuprofen or they've taken it for too long, and it made a hole in their digestive tract.
Well, in fact, next week on the People's Pharmacy, Carl will be talking with Dr. Nicholas Shaheen. He is a gastroenterologist, and he's going to tell you about some of the problems associated with ibuprofen. But in the meantime, what to do? Well, in a short-term situation like you were in Paris, yes, ibuprofen is pretty effective, but you've got to watch out, not just for your stomach. It can also raise your blood pressure. It can have cardiovascular complications. Be tough on your kidneys, so you don't want to overdo. What else could you do if you were traveling and hiking all over, climbing the Eiffel Tower, for example, and you were Carl? What would you do for your sore joints, Terry?
Sore knees. I'd see if one of those cafes in Paris had something with sour cherries in it. Montmorency cherries. I think that might help my sore knees quite a bit. I think we should point out, Joe, that, Carl, did you buy the ibuprofen while you were in Paris?
No, I brought it. Well, I had some with me.
You had some with you. Because different countries have, almost every country in Europe has an NSAID or two that are available over the counter, but they all have different regulations, so it's going to depend on what country you're in, which one you can buy in the local drugstore.
You know what I would have done, Carl? I would have looked for a topical NSAID. When we were in Italy last year, we found over-the-counter Voltaren gel. It contains diclofenac, a powerful NSAID, much strong, well, I won't say much, but somewhat stronger than ibuprofen. And you just rub it on those sore knees. You get the benefit without the risks of doing a lot of damage to your digestive tract. It's available over the counter in a lot of European countries. So next time you do a lot of hiking and walking, you might want to look for the topical form of NSAIDs. Carl, thanks so much for the call.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
888-472-3366 is the number to call if you'd like to join the conversation.
And we have an email from Marty in Plano, Texas. Marty says, for constipation, taking magnesium tablets during the trip is a great preventive. For jet lag, melatonin is helpful if you take it when you would ordinarily be going to sleep in the destination location. And Marty says, for foodborne illness, I never go anywhere without a blister-packed probiotic of a special kind. At the first sign of trouble, I chew a few. And one more thing from Marty. Prescriptions. Take a list with the specific brand and dosage, and if possible, the printed prescription in case something does happen to the bottles. And by the way, that list should contain the generic name of your medication, even if you take a brand name product, because the brand names vary from one country to another, but the generic name is pretty much identifiable no matter what country you're in.
Yes, on our website today, we're going to have a list of really crucial information when you're traveling abroad. For example, English-speaking physicians. That's sometimes very helpful. Also, travel insurance. We'll talk about that in a minute. Here's an email from Susanna. She says, my grandmother lived on the western shore of the Chesapeake Bay and always kept a supply of meat tenderizer at hand to neutralize the inevitable jellyfish stings we all got in August. And what do you do for a bee sting? Some people tell us baking soda. Here's an email from Jai, J-A-I. Bee or yellow jacket stings, he says, vinegar and baking soda works great. We've also heard from people that...
Well, meat tenderizer or the baking soda or a cut onion can all work on a bee sting. We go to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Pat, welcome to the People's Pharmacy. What is your...
Hi, Joe and Terry.
Hi.
I have a little remedy for bed bugs that I use. I like going to rummage sales, but I'm very hesitant about bed bugs. So what I do is I keep my clothes in the hot car for a week because in Milwaukee it gets very hot in summer. So I figure that way it bakes out the bed bugs.
I think that is a terrific solution. Putting them in the dryer at 120 degrees will work, but in the hot car for a week, that should do the trick. And, when Kobe Shaw suggested putting your luggage in the freezer, I thought, how many people have a freezer big enough to put their suitcase in? But
that's going to be hard.
Forget about it. But if you put your suitcase in the trunk of your car for a week, just the way you do, Pat, that should kill all the bed bugs. So rather than taking your suitcase into the house, take all of the clothes out of the suitcase before you get it into the house, stick them in the dryer, and then put the suitcase in the trunk and let it bake for a week. Thank you so much for the call, Pat.
Oh, you're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Let's go to Maria in Tampa, Florida. Hi, Maria. What's the burn remedy?
Hi, Joe and Terry. The burn remedy is aloe vera gel. Is outstanding. If you use it when you have burned yourself on a hot iron or curling iron or on the stove, you put some gel on there as heavy as you can, and once it is absorbed, you have no marks whatsoever.
Now, Maria, do you keep an aloe vera plant in your house so that you've got this gel handy?
I have the plant in the garden, but I also have a bottle that's the 99% pure aloe vera gel. And it really is wonderful. I have that handy, and I travel with it, too.
Oh, well, thanks very much for that recommendation.
We appreciate it. Here's an email from Brenda. As an avid hiker, I always have Arnica Gel and Arctica Montana 3 times potency in my backpack. The gel is great for muscle pain, swelling, stiffness, and bruising, and can have amazing results. The tablets, especially when started immediately, work to promote healing from sprains and bruises. And some people use castor oil, if I'm not mistaken, for bruises.
Some people do use castor oil for bruises. We also have an email that suggests ginger tablets for motion sickness. And if you don't have ginger tablets, you could use a little crystallized ginger. That works as well.
Now, here's one from... I don't know. This person didn't identify herself. She says, tonight when I came in from tending my flowers and doing a little pruning, I had literally about 10 bites on the back of my legs that were already itching like crazy. I take soy sauce and rub it on the bites. The incredible itching stops in about 10 minutes, and within hours, the red welts disappear. You can also use soy sauce for burns, and for itches, hot water, hot enough to be painful, but not so hot as to burn.
We're going to Boonesboro, Massachusetts. Elizabeth, welcome to the People's Pharmacy.
Hi, Joe and Terry, and this is Boonesboro, Maryland.
Thank you, Maryland. There we go.
Just a quick remedy for leg cramps. My husband has suffered with leg cramps and discovered by wearing knee-high socks at night. Doesn't matter what material it is, the cramps never appear again.
Well, that's a very easy thing to do to keep leg cramps away.
Yes, that's what I wanted to let the lady know.
Okay.
We certainly appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And if the knee-high socks don't work all by themselves, you can put some soap chips in them, and maybe that will help.
Exactly right. Let's go to Dorothy in Terry. You're going to have to pronounce her town.
I might ask Dorothy to do that. Dorothy, help us out with your location, please.
My location, Mukwonago, Wisconsin.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Mukwonago?
Uh-huh.
Where is Mukwonago?
It's close 20 miles about from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. All Indian names.
Okay, and what's your home remedy?
A very wonderful home remedy. When I find a bed bug biting me someplace because my dog is sometimes sleeping with me, I take dryer sheets.
Uh-huh.
I put dryer sheets between the mattresses or even under the pillow sometime for a little while, and right away, no problem. They kill bed bugs. I got that out of one of those books, pest-free property type thing.
Well,
I'm
just wondering if Dorothy isn't talking about fleas. I don't think dogs have bed bugs.
Right. But we have heard that dryer sheets discourage a lot of different kinds of insects, and they might very well discourage fleas.
We have time for just one more. John, we can't tell what you've got on the message here, but it's something about bleeding, and you're in, was it Bedford, Virginia?
Yes, sir. My name is John. There is now a product that is available over the counter called Quick Clot. It is a purple powder, and it is first developed for the military for field dressings, and it works fantastically on even heavy bleeding.
John, thanks so much for that recommendation. And another product that also works super well is called Wound Seal. So you will find that in your local drugstore as well.
We do appreciate the call. So let's just give you a very quick summary of what we would take with us as our emergency first aid. First of all, yellow mustard in packets, black pepper packets, soy sauce packets, some sugarless scum for both heartburn and constipation, maybe a little meat tenderizer for stings, and
of course you want the magnesium and the what was I thinking? Anyway, you want magnesium for two reasons: constipation
and leg cramps. And maybe a little castor oil for bruises and bites.
And you do want your own medications plus a list of your own medications.
Absolutely. And you want to, go to our website and check out the links.
And you do want, possibly, if you're going to be doing a lot of hiking, some second skin to prevent blisters. And you definitely want a bandage or two.
Well, that's all the time we have. We hope you have a wonderful time hiking, vacationing, swimming, canoeing, caving, whatever is your passion. Thanks for listening to The People's Pharmacy. We want to thank our guest, Dr. Kobe Schall of North Carolina State University, for providing tips on how to keep from bringing bed bugs home.
Lynn Siegel produced today's show. Sophie Copeland provided technical assistance. Russ Henry and Al Wodarski are our engineers. Dave Graydon edits our interviews.
The People's Pharmacy is produced at the studios of North Carolina Public Radio, WUNC.
The People's Pharmacy theme music is by B.J. Liederman.
Next week, Dr. Nicholas Shaheen will share the latest research on heartburn, Barrett's esophagus, and other digestive tract woes.
If you'd like to order a copy of today's show, you can call 800-732-2334. Today's show is number 902. That number again, 800-732-2334, or you can place the order on our website, peoplespharmacy.com. When you go to the website, you'll find prescription medicines, dietary supplements, all kinds of information.
You can also sign up for the newsletter. It's all there at peoplespharmacy.com. In Durham, North Carolina, I'm Joe Graydon.
And I'm Terry Graydon. Thanks for listening, and please join us again next week.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast. If so, please consider taking a minute to write a review on iTunes. And thanks for listening to The People's Pharmacy.